The greatest form of control is where you think you're free when you're being fundamentally manipulated and dictated to. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell and you can see the bars and touch it. The other one is sitting in a prison cell but you can't see the bar, you think you're free. What the human race is suffering from is mass hypnosis. We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Hello, everyone. You are tuned into the Red Pill Hardcore TV show. And as always, I'm your host, V. And today we have a very, very special episode. For you people who watched the episode about the human trafficking, I had my friend here, Tina Milo, host the show, actually, guest host the show, because, well, I wasn't able to do the interview myself. So I'll put the link down below onto the show if you missed that. You definitely want to watch that before watching this show. But I have Tina Milo here with us, and I'm going to go ahead and play a video if you guys aren't familiar with her.
Hi, everyone. I'm also the founder of a very special, very unique, out-of-the-box thinking educational system. I graduated from Rhode Island School of Design. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts as well. I got my certificate as an advocate for children in 2014 from the PLTI, Parent Leadership Training Institute. Now, isn't that kind of strange? A degree as a certified paralegal, Bachelor of Fine Arts, and an advocate for children. Very strange combination. Well, anyways, I was trained to think outside the box. And like many people in the world, we've all done a lot, and we've suffered a lot, and we've gone through trauma. Well, the reason why I started this program, I lived in Europe for 20 years as a fashion analyst. I supply 90% of the trend information to the companies in New York. And somehow I went through a very bad divorce, and I lost a lot, including my children. So when I came back to the States in 2011, I was traumatized. And so I wanted to give a little bit of background of why I started. It's not like I woke up one day and said, look, I want to teach kids how to be designers. It didn't happen that way. I almost call it a spiritual intervention because I kind of walked away from it constantly, and then somehow the universe kept pushing me back and forth. Why I'm here is because I was very upset about how I saw the educational system in the United States when I came back. Kids came to me, parents came to me and said, guess what? We have no more arts in school, our creativity is taken away, we're losing interest in school, we're dropping out, and they're giving us these stupid tests with things we don't even have to know. Now, I can tell you right now, I know the youth has changed. We call it evolution. Children being born today are not the kind of children that were born before. They are had it. They're finished. They know what they want to be when they grow up. They know that they're going to school. They're going to learn things they don't need. I knew what I wanted to be when I was 5 years old. I knew I wanted to be a designer, although I had to fight my father for it. He wanted me to go into computer science. The only language he understood is a C. I purposely got a C. Then he let me go to RISD. So when I did some research, because the legal degree gave me a sense of a lot of doing research, and I did that for trends, but I found out in the 1900s, our educational system has not changed since the 1900s. Now, something's wrong with this picture. Why do you take a child and make them like everybody else? We are not a bunch of sardines in a can. Every child is different. Every child's unique. So why are we teaching them all to be the same? So I've heard some other text talks the last couple of days, and I saw one professor from England talk about how creativity is being taken away and how important it is. Then I heard a TED talk of a kid TED talk who's 14, who started a software company at 14, and you know what he said? High school makes you dumber. Well, you know what? I said, oh my God, they're speaking my language. So I'm like, okay, but everybody's talking about it. Everybody knows this is a problem. So when I started this project, and in the last couple of days, I realized I found the solution. I figured it out. So this project I started, I'm about to show you. And in a way, what I've done, I've taken out that whole middle school, high school, and I threw it out the window. First thing, what does a child want to be when they grow up? Doesn't everybody ask their kids that question? And when the kid says, well, I want to be this and I want to be that, does the parent sit there and now decide which school to send that kid based on what he just said? No. Oh, that's nice, but you can't do that until you graduate, and then you got to find a college to go learn that degree. We're forced to go into an educational system that makes you sit there all day long, learn. Well, I started a program which has taken fashion, which is my background. I'm a retired fashion designer. And I decided that I'm going to do something that no one else has done. I was criticized by the head of my former head of the RISD apparel department. I hope she sees this because she was killing me for a week. She couldn't sleep. She called me every day when she heard I was about to teach my RISD education for free. She said, you can't do that. I said, why not? We're the creme de la creme. You're taking our expensive education, you're going to give it away for free? She could not understand. She comes from that old school mentality. You got to pay for that education. So wait a minute. So if I was born in an underprivileged family, I can't get the same education that that kid gets? Well, you know what? The Montessori system, which I learned when I was in Germany, after I retired and gave up my career to raise my kids, I found that the Montessori system was the best. So what did I do? I took my best education from RISD, my Montessori experience, and I fused them together, and I created this. And now I'm about to show you that I prove that it works. Take away all that, give the child what they need, and they're learning to do math, spelling, and everything at the same time they're being creative because they don't even realize they're learning. They're making their own choices. They're taking their own, how should I put it? They're taking responsibility for their own learning style. Plus, you're giving them an environment that they're being creative. They look at concept boards, they look at dresses. My whole studio is constantly changing. I took that all and I fused it together, and now we're being followed by people in Europe. Designers are there. They're coming out of the work. I don't even know who are getting followed on Facebook. But I can tell you, I've had comments from designers in Europe that said, how do you do it? These kids are coming up with designs better than my colleagues. People in New York are following them. It's amazing. People cannot grasp that a 5-year-old can learn to sew, who can't even reach the pedal, make her own patterns, and make things that people would want to wear. So guess what? It's time to end this. This kind of educational system, we're done. It's all about healing, empowering, leading by example. So I hope everyone here, you may not understand this now, maybe 10 or 20 years from now, I want people in TEDx to maybe take what I've done and apply it to architecture, apply it to law, apply it to anything a child is looking to learn. Maybe there'll be schools opening up for every type of what they want to be when they grow up. You need to show compassion. You need to have no fear. Combining all three brains together is the only way to teach. You can't concentrate on just on the left. You got to concentrate on the right, left, and your innate. And Maria Montessori was the first one to mention that. I teach handicapped children too. She's the only one that proved that a handicapped can learn. I want to be a designer, 5 years old. Movement, cognitive development, we're always dancing. And I teach one-on-one, because what I teach is so complex that I have to get to know that student. I have to dig deep inside that student and know what makes them happy, and that's how I teach. I don't have my lessons prepared. I have the basics. But when it comes to my lessons with them, they choose the design that they're going to make, and that's how I teach. Every day, it's something different. They choose a harder design or they choose a less harder design. They'll learn as they do. 4 hours, they learn to sew. I teach history of fashion. I teach real-world experience, freedom of choice. They're learning math. They're using spec sheets that we use in New York. They're concentrating. These kids have they have all those, you know, whatever they call it, bipolar, this. These kids are concentrating. Look, draping. These kids are unteachable sometimes in school, but look at them here. Do they look like they're learning? And what's the most important thing? Once you learn something, you pass it on. They retain the information more when they have to give it back. This little girl is just giving back to one of our new students. No competition. Fashion for a cause. You also have to show compassion. Look at what they've designed, 6 years old. These are kids of my students and what they've designed.
Yes, that's right. Tito Milo was a TEDx speaker. I'm pretty sure this was long before she found out that TEDx was supporting pedophilia, with their TEDx speakers coming on saying pedophilia is okay. And also, I have Stephen Kelly with us. Yes. Truth Cat Radio. He's going to co-host the show with me today. How you guys doing?
Great.
All right.
Great.
Okay, so also we have Tammy, who's on the phone line with Tina, because Tammy has a bit of a situation. Tina, can you describe that for us? And Tammy?
Yeah, Tammy, she's online. Tammy Reef, who is finding Jonah. Tammy, go ahead. Tell us why you're on the telephone and in hiding.
Okay, so my case is something called a bloodline case, and because I'm fighting for my son, his name is Jonah Reef, and why I'm on the show is I'm trying to find a solution for a hierarchy child taken into the brotherhood, but taken also through the government. They take children through the government, through the courts, and it's quite an elaborate system and a methodology of how they do this through our courts throughout the world, in a nutshell.
And so far, Tammy and I met back in 2013 because my children were also trafficked through a court system. And we met each other in February 2013 when we were there for Bill Windsor, Lawless America. And we immediately found out that our cases were very high profile. Most of the people that were there were describing kids being taken by CPS or their ex-husbands, but ours were international cases. I was living, yes, so our children were internationally human trafficked through a court system. And what I do want to do is go straight to the actors, right, Tammy? We found out that through 2004 and 2017, we had Robert Mueller, the director of FBI. From 2004, Ralph Bolter, special agent in charge. And from 2004 to 2012, FBI agent under Mueller was Paul M. Abate, am I pronouncing it right? With also special agent Wason and Stephen D. Anthony. So we're dealing with Victoria Brownworth under Mueller in D.C., in charge of the FBI, working in conjunction with the United States Department of Justice over exploitation of children. Her boss was Eric Holder from 2009 and 2013. Holder was also the Attorney General of the United States. Holder was working with Loretta Lynch and Hillary Clinton, which was Secretary of State under Obama till late 2012, she changed hands with James Kerry in 2013 under Obama and Holder. So we're talking about Stephen Skip. We're talking about, you know, a lot of these high profile players in our government. Tammy and I both went to the FBI in DC. I got there first. The moment they heard my name with two other mothers, they literally kicked us out of their office. I mean, this is already like 6 years in. My case started in 2006. I walked into a trap. I was living in Munich, Germany for 20 years. Did not know that I married into the Illuminati, one of the bloodlines of Kufner that was part of the Rothschild. Literally, I was sought and scouted out. Somehow they found me in Hong Kong. They set in there one of their sons. Basically, I was used as a birth mother. In other words, they wanted my lineage, which Tammy and I seem to have found out goes back to what, Tammy? Our bloodlines?
Right, back to the bloodlines. Goes back to, again, you're talking centuries and centuries of generational bloodlines.
Which led to, want to read off the names?
The bloodline names, yes. The bloodline names on the Kufner side, where we actually connected, was through, hers was Mello, through Medina, through my grandfather, my mother's side of the family. Her father was a Cosine Van Doon. I'm sure you all, people that know about this bloodline list, may be familiar with that name. That connected to his name was Machado. The Machados were actually the Maccabees back in time. There were Israelites that were warriors. The Machados, the Maccabees, went to the Azores Islands in Portugal, connected to the Rodriguez, Gomez, Gutierrez, Medina, Mello names, and those were the kings of Castile and Leon in Portugal and the Azores Islands, Spain, those areas that went into France. That's just one side. Mine, the other side is Habsburg, Lorraine. On the French side of my son's situation, my grandmother's situation, for her side, and that was, he's a direct descendant of the last king of France.
The last king of France.
Correct.
So we, through your show, Stephen, through your show, through David Wilcock, through who else? Corey Good, through Penny Shepard, Tammy and I have found many pieces of our puzzle of why they did this to us. Why did they take our children? Why did they use and groom them for child pornography? Why did they, you know, all of this is, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to be watching the show. This situation has been going on for centuries.
Centuries, right.
But only now are we starting to become more aware and spiritual with the knowledge on the internet. It has helped us put little pieces and pieces of everybody's research together to find out why this is happening, what's going on in the planet, who's doing it. But the question is, what do we do about it? How do we stop this? How do we get our children back? I mean, we've got QAnon, as we were talking earlier, Stephen, he's helping the masses wake up, do their own research. But we, Tammy and I, are the core people that have been involved in pedophilia.
Tina, I want to say something really quick. Just for what you were saying earlier, Tammy, I'm sensing a Templar connection here. The Templars were very heavy in Portugal, of course, because when the persecution happened, you know, Friday the 13th, and they took out most of the Templars. Portugal is one of the few countries that did not do that, did not participate. And when you mentioned the name Medina, right away it reminds me of a guy out here in Hollywood that I've been investigating, who is a very high-level Satanist, very heavily connected in Hollywood, and also very connected to the Skirball Center and the Getty. So interesting, these family names. But so that's an interesting connection there. But that's a royalty, of course, the French royalty. But you see how the the Rothschilds and the Israelite tribes work their way into the Germanic, Aryan, blue blood, Templar royalty and all that. See, so there's your connection right there. That's fascinating.
You see, so
Steve,
that's
if I may
what.
interject, I'm sorry, Tina, if I may interject, so Stephen, you're right. I did find out that on my father's side of the family, Jonah, my son, his grandfather, we found out Sinclair. Okay, so his grandfather, they hid his identity. He was a Templar. He was a high-level Templar. They were the Templars from Scotland. Okay, so there is letters patent in the family. I want you to understand too. So again, I think I might have mentioned this on your show that on my mother's side, she's Habsburg-Lorraine, direct descendant from the last king of France. Her mother was actually entitled, by the way. So there's letters that the government has on that, and so you're going into the Priory of Sion, which my dad got a letter from the Priory of Sion, Sinclair, in January 2017. I also got letters myself that weren't letters patent that my grandmother had from the Habsburg-Lorraine side from the last king of France. And that also went into Spain, the kings of the Habsburgs of Spain and also of Austria. And then it went into how they intermarried into Portugal with my grandfather's Van Doon side, who are Merovingian also. So you're right, there was this connection. I got letters myself the year my son was born, 2007, 4 of them, to join them. I didn't understand who they were. I didn't know that the Illuminati was real. I thought they were mythical. And these were all Air France. I read them to all of my family, including my sister, who is actually related to, because there's another side of the family that's the House of Hanover, we're related to also, and she's married into an aristocracy that goes back to the House of Hanover with her husband, who is Cinder Comby Bower, who is related to the Bulmers. That's his stepfather, James Esmond Bulmer, who was a Tory minister, part of Parliament, House of Lords. So they too are, so it goes all the way back to the House of Plantagenet. So we're all related, we all go back to this, which is connected to who? Godfrey de Bouillon with the Knights Templar.
And just real quick.
Well, I've got to, well, I'm going to say,
Please, so.
I don't call, these people are anything but illuminated. I'll say at this media, our media, we just call them Illuminati. Because, I mean, when you get a lot of inbreeding happening, what do you get? Psychopaths and retards. So we just refer to them as Illuminati because it's just ridiculous the things they do that are so inhuman. You would have to understand that they're a subspecies now, and it's really ridiculous. And the thing about the QAnon, I gotta say, I'm record here. It's just, I mean, me being V, coming out representing Anonymous several years ago, and pretty much went straight to the top. It's just this whole Q thing. Nobody knows who Q is, and it's another one-letter thing because people say, who are you? You don't have a name. Nobody knows you. I don't need a name. I'll conquer you with a letter. So not too far after that, QAnon came along, and most people are catching on that it's mostly just a psyop because you do have the control of opposition to where you have someone stating some truth and then not doing anything about it, and then all that does is creates a group of people to be targeted. Okay, who's following this QAnon? Who is, supporting this? And then it's sort of like the Roche Hotel. Then they want to get everyone to go to this one spot and bomb it. So these people are potentially going to be targeted like crazy. Now, becoming a truther in itself, that has risk anyways. But I myself, even though I'm anonymous, I'm afraid to show my face and stand for what I represent. This QAnon is not a tangible being. It's a psyop. But take from what you can. There's a lot of truth, a lot of awakening, but also be aware that you need to safeguard yourself once you come across the truth and learn everything that comes with it. Because once you become knowledgeable of things, you then present yourself with a danger to the corrupt status quo. And so, go ahead, Steve. What were you going to say?
No, I was just talking. She had mentioned that the family went to Scotland, and I think we needed to mention that that's kind of a bastion for the Masons and the Scottish Rite. So I just thought, you basically what the ladies have tied in Israel, Germany, Scotland, the Masons, the Templars, Portugal. It's all the way back to the tribes of Israel. So I think that's a pretty fascinating little history lesson, right?
If you go further back, I have actually a big plaque in my house, and it was only last night that I went up to the plaque and I took pictures, and I found the name goes even further than Melo. It's one of the oldest nobilities of Portugal. Name Romero. What is it? Whatever. It's
Romero
Rodriguez, which
yes.
is before the Melo that married into with the Pont de Leon, the Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon, which were the kings of Leon and Castile,
so
of Portugal and Spain.
So that's our bloodlines. And
well, Tina, I thought it was funny that she mentioned Corey Good. That's like the third time I've heard his name today. So that obviously is something we talk about. We'll stick a connection with Corey Good.
Well, since I was little, I've always had dreams and visions, and I don't know what it is, but I've always had this intuition, you call, or psychic ability, or a gift of prophecy, or when I visually see things, I can draw them. I just have this creative ability, and I had dreams I could control. I could do astral traveling. I was always flying. I always felt like I was in a time machine, and I always wanted to travel back in time. I had repeated dreams that go on forever, and something draw me to Egypt. And I don't know, ever since I was a kid, I apparently had this gift. I thought everybody had it. And I saw my children being taken from me before it happened. I started having a lot of warning signs. I mean, the universe almost worked. I should have been dead. I've had an accident that I should have not walked away. Somehow I lived and survived without a scratch. And there are things in my life that I went through that I traveled to the Azores every summer since I was 6. I have this gift of traveling around the world, and since I was young, and I understand humanity. I have this thing about helping people and kids, and I can discern between evil and good. I usually feel the energy when I'm in a room, and I walk away. And so, I mean, eventually, when this happened with my children, I literally had insomnia for 3 years. I couldn't sleep. I worked on doing research. I learned legal language. I got my UN German legal second degree. I started taught myself to write German legal briefs to fight for my kids. I mean, the first thing my ex-husband did was he emptied out the bank accounts. I used to be a multimillionaire. I used to make $300,000 a year. I was a high-flying designer in New York. I mean, suddenly I'm poor and I'm evicted out of the house, and my kids were ripped away from me in 6 weeks. And I was trapped by an international hate convention treaty. He had 6 law firms, and I'm sitting there without one. And it didn't matter what I did. I'm an intelligent individual. I was a high honor student. Everything I did, I was one. I thought, what did I do in my life to deserve my husband being a pedophile and grooming my children for porn? And I'm finding the information. I had 100 pictures of my children taken by the father, and yet this court handed my children over to him. I thought to myself, what is wrong with this picture? No government was there. Right now, there's nobody in this planet. Tammy and I spoke last night. Nobody right now, anywhere in the world, that can actually go after the pedophiles and bring justice and bring our children back. There's not one agency.
Right.
Anyway.
Can I second that? I'd like to interject. I'd like to second that. Now, I also went a step further in a second approach. I want you all to know that after Tina and I met in 2013, I did have one side of the State Department that did help me. I had some good people, is what it is, in Children's Issue, that knew this was international child trafficking. My son was profiled in nude photos after they got him out of the country on a fraudulent passport in Australia. And so once he left the country on February 26, 2013, was profiled March 4th of 2013. So, and then I had another side that they understood that they were battling, which was Children's Matters, inside the State Department. Now, I know, Steve Kelly, you'll know, you probably have some background knowledge to know that the CIA does infiltrate all of those organizations and has their own people that are stooges that are set up to make it appear that they have this job title in those departments, and that's exactly what happened. So where I'm going with that is I want you to know that I'm here. I'm trying to find a solution. I used to be an art director, prop master. My mind works, and what is the solution to rescue children in the hierarchy, like my child Jonah and her son, and other children, and at that level, it seems like they have no hope. I've been a client of organizations, shall I say, that do rescue at the highest levels. These guys are ex-Delta Force, they're ex-CIA, they're ex-SEAL team. I've been a client of genealogists that work with them, State Department, you name it. I literally still am to this day. And I'm telling you that they are still, too, trying to find the solution. I've actually witnessed one of the partnering organizations rescue a child. They said to me, quote unquote, this is in 2016, around May, that they rescued a child out of the quote unquote OTO out of Switzerland. Not as ugly as yours, they said, or as high level, but just as does happen. But when it comes to levels like this in the hierarchy, children that are stolen into that level, there seems to not be a solution, or there doesn't seem to be a power on this earth. You think God would put them here, and I hope I hope I'm wrong. That's where I'm going. I hope there's a solution. How do we find that solution today? What can we do? What kind of alliance can we form, without using the Q people wordage, to solve this dilemma and epidemic?
Well, Tammy, I can tell you what. I want to qualify how real this is, and how corrupt and almost impossible it seems. I've also host Family Case Files. For those of you viewing this episode right now, I would have already released at least 1 or 2 episodes of it. It'll be here on this channel and other places, so I'll be sure to link it. I'm also the host of Family Case Files, which I have co-host, a lawyer co-host, who, you know, we give advice to people having CPS cases. Now, let me tell you, I've gone through 3 lawyers, all of which were just excited as hell. You know, they've seen my work, they've seen my previous shows on this sort of thing. They're all super impressed. They want to work with me, and you know, just when it came time to record, oh, I can't get anybody on the phone. So I mean, I've only had 2 lawyers on the show thus far. So I don't know if I gotta get a new lawyer for every episode. That's fine. But it's just going to show you the level of corruption. These people are probably being threatened behind my back, or they're being told lies, some sort of psyop about me to get people to walk away. I'll be grabbing all these people in court through subpoena, whatever, to give testimony. That's what happens later on in the future. But that's just how corrupt it is. And I'm going to tell you, people, this is MK Ultra. Okay, this is trauma-based mind control.
Yes.
You molest a child, victimize a child. It puts the child in an emotional broken position that can allow a schism in the brain to where they have multiple personalities, or their real dominant personality suppressed, and have other self that is a total slave to the system. This is indoctrination in its worst form, and that's why it's expressing itself across the world, especially these courts that are ran by the Illuminati who do this practice, which stems, it goes back all the way to ancient Greece, where the men would take, I don't want to say princes, they took charges, very young boys, and would mentor them, quote unquote, mentor them. And most the thing that happened was, well, pedophilia, molestation. You can go back and look in the Vatican, in these catacombs, these secret rooms they have underneath the Vatican. There's lots of pagan, ritualistic sort of stuff, and a lot of like statues, busts of little children with one piece of hair, lockets on their heads. Now, something that people don't understand is that little locket, that little one chunk of hair that's on the head, is symbolism, yes, for apprenticeship, like in Star Wars. You have the Padawan has the one lock of hair. I'm pretty sure you know this, Stephen. The point of that lock was so that the quote-unquote mentor would have something to hold on to, if you catch my drift.
Oh, okay. I have to tell you, because when my son he was actually kidnapped 3 times. And the first time it was to test his abilities, I found out later from inside sources of survivors that came out of the Brotherhood, okay? And they cut off his hair, keep locks of his hair. So I understand exactly what you're saying. That was one of the things that they do while they're testing him. He was barely 2 years old at that time from the first abduction of him it was 5 straight days. He'd never been away from me. And they did it through the methodology of making it look like I was married, making it look like I've never been married, by the way, to anybody. And making it look like, and they put other cases that they would basically play musical chairs with, of other people that this other character guy, Sullivan, that they used, he was just a front handler. But this was someone they used that was doing this on a regular basis. This was his fan life, basically. So that means that that's what he was groomed to do in the cult, in Brotherhood, and Illuminati, to basically marry women, breed with them, and steal their children through the government, through the courts. So, and they're all different levels. They're not all the same level. They're all different levels for whatever reason they target them to take their children. Jonah happened to be, they cut off his hair, and that was to save that lock of hair. I understand that.
I mean, at the end of all this,
well, that's what I get into, because you said you had lawyers that got screwed over trying to represent you.
Yeah, I mean, they literally, I mean, I called the National Missing and Exploited Children when I found out that I had a bunch of, a big envelope dropped off at my mother's house. I was here for a 2-week vacation during a separation that was happening in a divorce in Germany. I'm here, he knew where I was just visiting my mom for 2 weeks, then flying back. It was a trap. Literally, I was kidnapped with my children by a judge, William E. Smith of Rhode Island Federal District Court, signing 4 or 5 orders without a hearing, without knowing, without even a lawyer. I have no idea a case was opened against me for international child abduction when I was here on a freaking vacation.
That's what they do.
So, I mean, you got retired FBI agents, 2 in a car, gang stalking my family for 8 weeks, terrorizing my entire family. People in the neighborhood, they're like, what's going on? I mean, everybody knows each other for, 40 years or 50 years. They're like, what's going on? They try to report to the police. Police goes, oh, no. I mean, we're talking about lawyers that they gave me in Boston, found out that we're connected with that one too. Her handlers and her kidnappers were related to the lawyer that the National Missing and Exploited Children gave me to use.
I just want to say something real quick because, you know, I've been listening to all this and I need to kind of wrap this up and give you a solution.
Oh, good.
But the first thing is that we've been talking about ancient history all the way back to Israel. Templars, royalty, et cetera, et cetera. V, you mentioned catacombs, et cetera. Okay, key word here, underground. The solution to all of this is very simple, and this has been going on for thousands of years, and they've been doing the same thing for thousands of years, and that is digging these tunnels. Now, if we run around the surface and try to scour all this up, it's never going to go away, and this is why we have to go right to the heart, and this is why I talk about the Getty, because that is connected right to the royalty, and that is the royal pedophile bunker. And if we go into this one bunker, we spread out, we take out everything down underground, because that's where they all go to hide this stuff, and that's how they get away with it for all these thousands of years. If we take out all their underground hiding places, then it'll be very simple to finish up with what's left on the surface, because what we're dealing with on the surface is only the tip of the iceberg, which is underground, because in these underground bunkers, they don't worry about scrutiny, and they don't worry about the children getting away. And everything that we're seeing on the surface is just a tiny, tiny bit of the real problem. So ultimately, when we solve this thing, it's going to be going underground and rooting it out, and that will solve everything and will destroy the entire world structure that's been going on for thousands of years. And that's the answer to everything. So
Stephen, I'm with you.
Nothing on the surface changes. It's all
Okay,
done.
so-
Yeah, we go underground.
I'm with you. Let's do it.
Can I interject? Stephen, yes. You know what? I have like a pretty high-level defectors that are child survivors, and what you just said, one of them recently that I work with a team of them, by the way, because we're all hidden underground ourselves in a form of underground, and they said to me, start looking into an underground base, because that's most likely like where Jonah might have been. Let's say Australia. He's been moved around a lot, I will tell you, so I've been able to keep up with that. Look at those underground bases near those areas where he went last.
Something else I want to throw out here real quick while I'll remember. But we talk about these institutions like Child Protective Services and the lawyers and the judges and all that. You people have to understand that every single one of these individuals that are in these agencies that have been built to protect the children and protect the indigenous and the people who need the protection are being run by the enemy. The very pedophiles that we're talking about are the people that are in all these agencies, and it starts in the cities, it goes up to a county level, state level, federal level, international level, but it's every single agency on the smallest levels up. And when you're dealing with law enforcement, you're dealing in the courts, you're dealing with the hospitals, and mental health professionals, they're all connected. It's like a big, giant mafia. And again, ultimately, it all goes underground. Real quick, though, McMartin Preschool. Let's all remember the McMartin Preschool. That was a big, high-profile case where they took the children out of the preschool, put them on a plane, took them up to Satan's Castle, up in a house on the hill. There were underground tunnels and all this. So every bit of what they're doing here, somewhere along the line, is going to involve underground tunnels. And so if you really want to solve this, you've got to go underground.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to, as I was finishing saying, so my son, they took him to a place called Carlsbad Country Daycare in Carlsbad. It's a very important area that other people come back and go back. They're working with the Naval USAF.
Okay, so we are back from break. I want to come back and first state that, you know, the whole statement of the corruption, how it goes from the smallest to the largest agency, you know, especially with the children, you know, it's everywhere. It's with everything. We have the NSA. You guys know my beef with the NSA already. Our beef. Anybody I really work with. You know, they're supposed to provide cybersecurity and protect the cyber world and protect us from terrorism but they've never stopped a single terrorist attack. I've had NSA, DIA whistleblowers come onto a TV show. I'll link it below if you haven't seen it. Come onto a TV show, say they knew about 9/11. We're told not to do anything about it. They knew. So here, I've actually have to do this episode for the second time, guys. I've already done this show here with our one of the guests here, but the show came back with no audio. You know, every show that I do is really important. A lot of our programs just suddenly don't want to work, and so we got to re-download everything. So there's the whole tampering. Now, in a saying, well, we can't, you know, protect anybody. They're not doing cybersecurity. No, what they're doing is controlling information, because this is an information war. 90% of war is an information war, and we are in a truther war right now. Cold War is nothing. This is the real war that's going on right now. And what they're doing, they're shutting down anybody who knows anything and harassing people who know anything. They're not here to serve and protect. They're there to victimize and cover up. So yes, and Stephen, you know, you're at work with the Getty, trying to get the Getty exposed. I mean, I'm going to tell you, these people do not give a damn about artwork. People will spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on artwork as a slap in the face to us, because, you know, that money is stolen, ill-gotten, whatever, and buy the most frivolous things with it. But they really don't care about artwork.
Well, they're holding it hostage.
Have you seen the movie Equilibrium, Christian Bale? That's really how the government feels about free expression, okay? Don't give a damn about artwork.
Well, no, the artwork is being held hostage. All right, this is right. This is out of the protocols. Basically, the artwork is representative of Western society, and if we ever, it's like Chapter 9, they basically say right out, if we ever rise up against them, they will blow these things up and take out all of our... So in other words, it's the same thing with Getty Images. Now, you wonder, why is Getty controlling all of these images? It's because with a click of a button, they can destroy all of these images and wipe them out. The same thing with the artwork. By taking all of our precious art, putting it in one location and putting a nuclear bomb underneath it, if 10 million people in Los Angeles decide to rise up and occupy the Getty, they will blow it up and they will say, you better not come near here. Not only will we blow it up and nuke you, we will destroy all of your precious art and history. And they said, right, they've said 200 years ago when they wrote the protocols, they said that if you ever rise up against us, we will destroy all of your archives. And what is Getty? It's archives. And this is a Templar fort. You mentioned the Vatican also.
Vatican, everything. Vatican's also another one.
It's a computer format file. Everything on a computer now. Now, if you no longer have books, you no longer have physical, tangible things. You know, you have everything on your computers, and more technology is developing, being put out to where you can't even operate your technology unless it's hooked up to the internet. The control of the information, and so I really want to tell people on that note, keep your books, keep all your hard copies of everything. Don't rely on having your books and anything like that on your devices. Don't get these people in control. You know, the only reason why I'm able to do what I do currently is because I put my information in a place that these people cannot control and access. A notepad, a notebook. You know how they want to keep, oh, here's a scheduler app. Tell us everything that you plan on doing for the next month or so. And you have to be hooked up to the internet to use this. Screw off. How about that? The personal computer can't be used without internet. Can you imagine?
The enemy only controls one thing, and that is information, all the media. And that is the only weapon they have to use against us is information. And that's why when the personal computer came out, we started doing our own desktop publishing and video and what have you. We completely invaded their control structure. And that's all they've got. They don't control the armies, they don't control the governments, but they do control the medium that controls it, that tells everybody what to think. So that's where we're threatening that.
Little interception with it. That's what noise they put out.
She got intercepted, guys.
So I want to know, Tammy. I'm glad that you're able to come back and do a second interview. Because from what I was told, you have to end up being relocated every time you do a show or something. What's going on with that?
What ends up happening, well, our team has noticed, and there's different teams I work with. They've noticed that all of a sudden, we will get, like just now, we have funny different sounds that let me know without somebody interrupting me, and sort of my train of thought off, basically, that we have some problem. So what happens is we have strange vehicles that will show up at a location under law enforcement, black SUVs, white SUVs, vehicles, or they'll completely throw off our system, intercept it, and cut it off. And we'll have strange tracking after that, where we can't even our computers will be completely where we can't even get online. Okay, we can't even we'll have even. We even had a point where we had even an Indian man come on and pretend to fix it, not like your normal guy will come on that's trying to hack in. All of a sudden they'll be giving us information about we know where you are. They'll say names actually. That gets that's really bizarre. We've also had people sitting with computers in their car outside of a building where we're broadcasting, or we've gone to a location so we can do what we're doing. Through like a VPN, basically. Okay. So they're intercepting. They have the keys to the VPN, and they're basically shutting us down or intercepting or doing something so that the audio or gets distorted, and you can't. And their tracking is what they're doing, and they're listening in.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's such a thing as called there's gang stalking. Okay, and there's also the noise campaign. Okay, before I started the show, right as we're booting up, 2 ambulances came by. And Tina also mentioned that ambulance. And then I've actually had to relocate to a different part of the studio here to get away from the motorcycle campaign. Just like
yes, I get
every time I record, there's a gang of motorcycles outside revving up their engines. So yeah.
And what happens to me is what they do is they get to my landlords. Like it started when I first got back to Germany. I found myself evicted out of the house. He wanted to get rid of me, put me in a psycho ward, just throw away the key, lock me in a German jail. I mean, Tammy and I have both been locked up, but it still didn't keep us quiet. But my landlord recently started writing all these weird things. And I know from everything else through the years, same tactics, same old game. It's old now. Like we see through this pathetic game that they play. They can't even come up with something new. It's always the same old. So yeah, I just got evicted. Ever since I posted that thing, that's it. It came down, boom, boom. They know everything we do. It doesn't matter.
If I may interject, even to confirm what Tina's saying, is that what will happen too is they'll open opportunities that look great, like a place to live or a job. And what you don't know is you've walked into the people that we're fighting that are interconnected in the quote unquote family. And you won't know until something weird happens. You start to notice the red flags, that there's something wrong, and then until it's too late, they become very, very, because they're narcissistic, so they become very, very blatant. Like, I was at a location right after talking to you again. I wanted to mention that within a few days, not only did the fake police show up, but I just got a report even today after moving to that location, the police chief in that place, which was, I don't like to say, but it was someplace, that was in the northern and the part of between Canada and Ontario and Washington State. Then the police chief show up and sat outside. Now, I didn't know that he didn't have anything else to do, and he has nothing else to do but sit outside of a location. I thought he was pretty busy. He can send his own guys in. So that just tells you, like, these guys, how the power that they have to send in their own, or to send in people that to violate their abuse of authority in their power. They have the ability to send those kind of people out there to make it look official, so that the common folk wouldn't know if something happened, abduction happened, which that is what happened to my son and I, by the way. That's how he was last taken, a warrantless kidnapping, no paperwork, no nothing. They said I was the wife of somebody, and that I even used that I was Mrs. Sullivan, and that I ran from a California court when I was never married and I lived in another state, so they had no subject matter jurisdiction. So again, it goes back to what you said, the law stuff, a methodology that they use and abuse to target their victims and abuse the system.
Absolutely.
I had police outside my studio after our call.
That's actually not uncommon.
And I were even trying to set up a call the very next morning. It was a Friday, and we talked on it, and then Saturday morning, she had the state trooper sent a picture to me. Well, it wasn't to me, but it was through somebody else as a gatekeeper for me. She had a state trooper right outside of her house.
Never.
That's not uncommon. I have had a lot of guests report back to me, telling me that police, everyone from the police to the NSA, visited them personally and told them not to talk to me ever again. So yeah, I believe you.
Well, it's been going on for, what, 12 years for me? So, like, it's not a big deal. Like, it happens. I don't care. Let them watch. I'll go up to them now and take a picture right up to them.
Except for B, but if I may say that, I mean, in certain other cases like mine, I was safe housed, to give you another scenario, and this was Christmas, actually 2016. And these were ex-staff members that were with a new organization that were with another organization. And that guy's dead right now, by the way, of that organization underneath the ambassador, Kerry of Brandstad is his name. Kerry, I'm sorry, not Kerry, but Brandstad is his name, of Des Moines, Iowa. There was an organization there by the name of WFM. I was their client. I'm going to name them. And he was somebody that was a director of a network organization under the State Department underneath Brandstad. So I was their client, and they work with other various human trafficking organizations. They also had a ministry, very scary. So my point in that is that I ended up being safe housed with some of their ex-staff members, and we had the NSA, we have it captured because it was on a network that we were able to capture it. This was December 2016. Literally, they had to smuggle me out of that location because there was a mole in our midst working for the NSA. We have it actually showing the NSA was directly, there was like a fire that went across the sky about 8 p.m. around New Year's. So you're going into 2017, like I said, but we already had some sighting of the NSA in December 2016 into January 2017. So I'm telling you that why would the NSA be interested in someone like them or someone like me? Why? If this wasn't all I'm saying it is. What would they need? Why would they need to do that? Why would they need to track people like all of us or me? What would be the point? They have
do we look dangerous to you?
Again,
can I answer that question? All right, I'm going to answer that question. All right, first of all, remember we were talking about the bloodlines earlier and all that sort of thing, and we also mentioned Templars. It's not the NSA, it's the Templars. Templars are the NSA. The NSA are the Templars. Okay, now why do they do that? Why do they track the bloodlines? That's what they've been doing since the Crusades. Because there's two things. They track the alleged descendants of Christ, and they also track alternate factions of the Templars, because the Templars have gone through breakups during a couple different times. Obviously, they got shut down when they took them out. But they also, World War I and World War II, they fractured. We have Faction A and Faction B. So Faction A is always looking for Faction B and keeping track of Faction B. So if you have royal blood and you have Templars following you around and watching you. It's either you're related to Christ or you're a Templar, and they want to know who you are and who you're related to and who's messing with you.
Well, also, let me add on top of that. Yeah, there there is this thing about. I think this is mostly expressed in ancient Japanese culture, but it's the same thing. You have the main family, and then a family branch, and typically, the family branch members were made as royal servants, a higher class than everyone else, but still servants. And so today, speaking of today, with the NSA, their technology, what they're doing with the chemtrail spraying, and I'm going left field here, but follow me. With the chemtrail spraying, all the aluminum, barium, titanium, strontium, all that stuff that we're bringing in breaks our blood-brain barriers, neural lacing our brains, our nervous systems. We become something that can be queried by, biotelemetry. Okay, this is, and they want to. Not only are they remote mapping brains, but they're also following our genetic makeup. They're wanting to see, what, who has a history of being a rebel, who has, revolutionaries in their families, who are the people that have, this and that in their family, and they're trying to see what they can to track these people. Yes, well, let's kill off the future Paul Revere's. Let's kill off the future Nelson Mandela's. Let's kill off the future Guy Fawkes. Okay, and so these are the people who they want to cull these people, essentially, kill these people, and make sure that the only people who are left behind are those who are obedient. Now, there's such control freaks that it's not just going to go into tapping into the genetics to monitor the genetics, but also be able to alter the genetics. You can turn on a gene trait by hitting a dormant gene with a energy source, a photon. It'll activate a gene source that wasn't active before, that wasn't expressing itself. So they really want to tailor people, but they're way off from that as of right now. But the NSA is not interested in catching terrorists. They've never caught any. They've never stopped any terrorist attack from happening. They're interested in monitoring and control. They're social engineering. Everything we've said up to this point is proof of that. And it needs to stop.
Well, absolutely. That's what we're here for. We need to figure out, like Stephen said, how do we stop it? If we all start finding each other, which is beautiful that we found each other, and that there's more of us out there. If we finally join forces, it takes more than us, but we're the start. But we do need to do something about stopping them, Stephen. So I'm all ears. Tammy's all ears. All we want to do is rescue the kids, all of them.
Wait. Now, I'd like to interject, if I may, for a second, and I want to also confirm what Dee said and what Stephen said, and I found out in my own case through being a client, also working with somebody who's ex-MI6, who in 2017 did say exactly what Stephen and Dee basically said, that they did track people in those bloodlines. I didn't know that they were the Knights Templar were NSA, and I want to confirm that what they basically said to me was that they were scared. They're scared for their own family to be able to give me more. I don't get to I sit in a war room with these people, and I get to breathe. That's what it is. What they said is that there's a primary group, like Faction A, Faction B, that fight each other. they fight each other for power. So I did get that. I want to confirm that too, as being a client of anti-trafficking organizations of the hierarchy. They said that you're dealing with called a primary group that is paying outside the United States, that is paying a secondary group inside the United States using ex-mercenaries and guys, basically they're a Knights Templar. Well, I want to confirm with you, Kamala Harris, who she was the Attorney General of California, who hid and covered up the international kidnapping of my son Jonah out of Alabama and North Carolina. Two states my home was at that time was Alabama. We were visiting North Carolina. They were Knights Templars. They were a police force she helped set up in California. And that made the news. That I was surprised it made the mainstream news. This is something that any of your viewers right now can look up, and it's out there. But they were connected to Jonah's case because that's who came after me. That's who is still after me to this point, where I was tracked different places, but they are set up to falsely incarcerate or arrest people and track down people like bloodline people, or people that are like me, or that have this basic lineage cases, basically. I want to confirm that to the listeners. This is real, and this is really a situation, and we're talking about solutions here, and how do we fight this? So this is real. Anybody else that's going through this, that's listening to this, they need to know that you're not alone. I'm a victim of this, and I actually, thank God, have how to gather evidence and how to capture it, because I was taught by people that were private attorney generals, and basically I was their protege, so I understand law on the private side and the public side. So I'm very clear about how to capture that kind of evidence, and I have it.
Well, documentation is anyone's best friend. When you deal with an establishment that, they have the sword, but they also rule by the pen, well, and that's another issue I'm having with my other TV show, Family Case Files. I've got 1,000 people that want to be on the show, but nobody has their paperwork. A lot of these parents are being screwed over, not getting any of their paperwork. They're not either getting it and not keeping up with it, because they have this embedded programmed false sense of security that, well,
the lawyers do the job.
A just government. It's just, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just gonna wait around and get through this. And every piece of paper that's given out in the courtroom, you need to keep it, because later on, these people alter the paperwork. People alter what's said.
We know that.
And it's not just people dealing with CPS, it's people dealing with everything involving the courts. After every hearing, after every appearance, gather your paperwork. Keep your paperwork, scan it, keep it in digital files as a backup. Keep that on a thumb drive. Keep everything. Because I've had loads of people complain to me, this was not what was said. This was not what was said. I don't have the paperwork. It's not what was said. I tried requesting paperwork. They won't give it to me. They won't give it to me. No. After dealing with these people, documentation is your best friend.
Court
you're all ready to take up the sword against these people,
the court transcripts.
Move on to that pen and paper.
Even those can be altered.
Court transcripts. It took $4,000. I mean, I didn't have any money. I had to borrow money. $4,000 to get the court transcripts.
And also, it's not even just a court transcript. Before any summons, before any having to go to court for any reason, you file for video recordings of your court cases, because these are criminals. Okay, what do criminals do? They work behind closed doors. They close these doors. Nobody. That's why it's held downtown. Nobody can really be at. You got to pay for parking. You got to. They sequester themselves in a place where you have to work your way to get to, and you have to, gag orders and things like this. What happens when a criminal wants to take your children? Well, he's going to go into your house, take your child, he's going to kidnap you, gag you, so you can't say anything, and then make off with what they want. If you want to know what a criminal is, well, how does a criminal act? A gag order? Kidnapping's going on. Okay, these are criminals. If they were just, there would be no closed doors. Documents would be there for the public. If the defendant, plaintiff were willing, there would be video recordings of everything happens in every court. Media would be allowed to sit in. No, these are criminals. They want to do everything in secrecy. Secret society, people.
Right.
Okay, because criminal authorities were prevented from walking into that courtroom. When I tried to even go to the state police, they were following me, and the judge yelled at me and basically refused to, you know how bad CPS and DHS is. Mine actually interviewed my children. They were not even allowed in the courtroom. My cases were held at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which is when the courts weren't even open. I was dragged to a courtroom hearing.
It's sort of like ransom. It's sort of like ransom, No, we're not going to show you, kids. But you got to show up. What money are you going to pay us? This is how criminal acts, right? Criminal protocol.
Tina was calling me at that time, and a lot of those things were going on with her. I can verify because I was around her. I was with her in 2013. In early 2013. So I can verify those things were really happening to her, to Tina at that time, just as she was with me when I was trying to get help with the FBI and the State Department. We were in Washington, D.C. together, so I can verify the stumbling blocks and the things that we went through in Washington, D.C. So it's very, and not only that, but even when they falsely incarcerated me and kidnapped me to cover up the international kidnapping of my son Jonah to Australia in February of 2013, and I will tell you that I was actually making headway with the good guys in the State Department that knew, I found some good people that knew that we were fighting another entity in Children's Matters of the State Department in 2013, and these guys, I found out later they were ex-CIA, or they were part of the CIA. I can't even say they're ex. They were CIA at the time. But what I want to say to you is that, with that said, these guys were, because I had a case open, I was even working with Sessions. I want you to know.
Sessions.
He was my Alabama senator of Alabama, and I had a meeting in it's called the Russell Building in Washington, D.C., with his aides, with Danielle and some others, and they said, this is interesting, and this was actually February of 2013, and mid-March of 2013, and they were willing to help me. He said, the only thing they said to me was, we can't go after the kidnapping, but we can go after, the Alabama Fort Payne Judge Whitmire, who did a favor for the people in California, Judge Pollack, Judge Iribarne in San Diego, Bonnie Dumanis, the DA of San Diego, Kamala Harris, the Attorney General in California, and the attorneys Jane Wesley Brooks, Dan Burke. I'm naming people on purpose, and also my own attorneys, Katie Abendetti, and also Andrea Titellin from Los Angeles. The purpose was to say, hey, okay, we can't really go after kidnapping for whatever reason. I never understood that. Now, I'm sitting at the Russell Building numerous times here in Washington, D.C., and they said, but what we will go after is the Title IV deal. We'll set them that way. It's no different than going after Capone and saying, hey, we'll get it for tax evasion. Same idea. But they were willing to go after him. I had Sessions' help, is my point. They said, can you be here in the next week, and this is like later on in mid-March, and do a presentation on Title IV D, how money is being stolen out of my back pocket in Alabama, and we'll help you that way. Do you know I was kidnapped within days, is where I'm going with this, and I was hidden in the system under a name Tammy Reese, R-E-E-E-S-E, like Reese Witherspoon name. And then they finally hid me where in an old part of, like a dungeon part of the jail with men. Now, you know that would never happen. And I have people that actually knew I was in there under another name. So I basically, it's a type of trafficking where they actually falsely incarcerate you and they make money off you, the DA's department. My point in telling you that too is that what they were doing is when they finally got me, they had to smuggle me to California through people that were low level, Carol Schneider, working with Carlsbad, PD, Sergeant Timothy Sullivan was part of the MK Ultra, the Monarch Project, okay, working with the Carlsbad Country Daycare. So you have a whole school here working with the Naval USAF people. Again, so when they got me to California, what did they do? They didn't voir dire the jury. Now, this is a well-known, documented situation. Cindy Dumas with Save Kids International documented this. She looked through the window, and she had other people that were there that were 50 court watchers. Guess what? Why? Because who were my jurors? The jurors were ex-CIA and ex-NSA and CPS. That was in March of 2014 and April 2014. What does that tell you? That's a way to stop people from exposing what they're doing. It's a different kind of gag order. They wouldn't let in the public. What does that tell you? Why would they need to do that if everything was on the up and up and they weren't committing RICO and GRICO fraud?
I tell you what, if they weren't up to anything, they wouldn't be trying to hide anything.
Exactly.
Family court. I mean, I'm ex-military, and Stephen, ex-contractor of these feds, and I mean, you have a gag order. It's only there for sensitive national security, secrets, interest, information. When you put a gag order anywhere else, then people have heard me say this. I'm pretty sure you're tired of hearing me say this. But you got a gag order having to deal with a family issue. It's there in plain sight. It's criminality. You know, they're trying to get away with something they know they don't want the public knowing. A family issue is not of a matter of national security. A gag order should not be used outside of a military tribunal. Okay. So, Kelly, you've been a little silent here. I know. Again, I'll reiterate. This is the second time we've reported this, and Stephen's had these wonderful ladies on his own program, so he knows it all already. So he's not as active as the first recording. But please, if I'm missing,
yeah, because you were very excited when you first met us, Stephen. You were like.
Well, I know at the end of the first show that you were saying after we got done recording, hey, get these people's their names, their pictures, and all this stuff. What was that about?
Exactly.
All right. You know, I was there a little earlier when I was listening to you guys talking about cars and vans outside. You know, I didn't want to go there, but they don't do that to me. They used to do that to me, but they are scared to death of me. They know what I will do to them. And if I catch a car following me, or if I catch somebody outside, they're going to be scared to death. They don't even want to fly airplanes over me and do surveillance, because I will look at that plane and that pilot will know I see him, and he will start freaking out because he's worried his motor's going to die and he's going to crash and he's going to die, because these people know what happens when you mess with me. They die. Okay? And this is the thing, you know, things are changing. You know, I mean, I'm very angry. You know, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I have a plan. Oh yeah, I have a plan. I know how to end. In fact, I'm the only one in the world right now, it seems like, who knows how to end all this crap. And it pisses me off. You're talking about Q, and I don't want to say anything bad about Trump. God bless Trump. However, no one has any damn answers. I'm the only one that has an answer. I know where to go. I know what to do when I get there, and I know how to get in.
Oh, you're not the only one, my friend.
Well, no, listen, I know where to go. No one knows what to do. I know how to get into the damn bunker, okay? I know how to get in. I know how to shut it off before. I know how to take out their nuke before they can make it go off. I know how to take out their defenses, and I know how to penetrate their nuclear bunker. And there's nothing they can do about it. It's only a matter of time before we do that. And when we do that, it's all over for them. And they better give up now, because it's going to be a slaughter if they don't. And it's coming soon. And I think they know it.
Tell you what, Stephen, there are underground bunkers, and there are these underground tunnels. And I've actually told people this a lot. They want to know, well, how do you know what family is doing what? How do you know these rich people, what they're doing? Well, I mean, the thing about these rich elitists and these government entities, the relationship between them, they really needs to break, because they are really commingled, they really coexist with each other. I mean, you can look at any mansion. I mean, you come here to Europe, you can find secret passageways underground. It's like Steven said, it's always something that has to do with some underground stuff, some secret passages. How were black slaves getting free? I know the Underground Railroad is metaphorical in a sense, but there actually were a lot of underground tunnels slaves used to escape. So, I mean, if you've got some real shady, I was about to curse, real shady stuff going on, why do you need underground tunnels? I mean, I know the NSA, the NRO, these people have access to satellite technology that do ground penetrating signal from satellites to be able to see in the ground. They can find mineral deposits, oil, gas, via satellite that deep into the ground. It goes to show you that for the people that are moving children underground, whether it's the Mexican border or Europe, wherever, they can see these warm bodies moving about in these tunnels and not doing anything about it. At the NSA, say whoever was actually a just agency, not corrupt, all these tunnels would have been found, as soon as these satellites were put up. Okay, that's just the end of it.
Well, they are the tunnels. The end. That's who can. Every single bunker in the world is run by the NSA, except for the ones in Russia and China. But it's like, for instance, when in Europe after the war, all these countries that signed security treaties and contracts with the United States, basically they handed their sovereignty over to the NSA. NSA comes and builds bunkers. They control the entire country. And when you build a bunker, there's no border. There's no government. It is truly a secret underground government, because it's all one country down there. There's no England. There's no Europe. There's no USA. There's no California. There's no New York. It's just one big complex, and it's a labyrinth down there. It's bigger than you could possibly imagine. And I'll tell you something else. We think that here, living on the surface, we think we're so sophisticated, and yet we can only build things so large. And I'll tell you something, there's no limitation to how big you can build underground. We have the world's tallest building. It's nothing compared to what they have underground.
I hear it's connected by the trains. There's a very high-tech train system that connects from America to Europe, and all over the world they're connected trains.
Everything, yeah.
High speed.
Well,
I understand that too.
Yeah.
But Stephen, getting back to the fact that our last conversation, you said you wanted pictures from Tammy and I.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Let's get back to that.
All right, all the perps. Okay, you got perps. Yes, get me the pictures. You want to make these people go away, give me their photographs.
Done in 4 states and continents of people. So you can imagine the list I really actually have down. The guy that opened the God's door. Okay.
There's this PROBA, while I have it in my head, the PROBA investigating service that he hired to stalk and harass me, these private investigating. Oh my God, you won't believe this. Okay, you ready? You won't believe this.
You need to email these photos.
Yeah, well, I did. I sent them
So you need to email them to me directly. I'll give you my email.
We have yet to send ours from our team.
All right, let me just throw it out there. This is for the benefit of the listeners too. It's law17gun@AOL. That's law17gun@AOL.com. Okay. Oh yeah, you get my book for free. So anybody out there that's having issues with perps, or they want healing, somebody's screwing with your kids, send me an email. Send me pictures of the bad guys. Okay?
Stephen, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, one more time. I didn't catch
all right, this is just for the listeners. One more time. If you're having any issues with people screwing with your family, people screwing with your children, or whatever, or you know something, you send me an email and you give me all the information. You send me photos, and the email is law17gun@AOL.com. Law17gun@AOL.com. And also, if you need healing, you can send me an email too. But seriously, if you got people that are harassing you, giving you problems, send me their photo and all the information you've got.
Okay, you ready? Judge William E. Smith of Rhode Island, who refused me to reopen the case after I got confirmation that every image I had back in 2007 was 100% child pornography of my children being groomed by their father. Barry Pollock, the attorney who sold me out, that's connected with the Pollocks from Carlsbad, California.
Gregory Pollock in my case, the main judge that sent Jonah, it sold him internationally.
And we have Charles Milevitz, who was the former attorney general that represented my ex-husband as one of the 6 law firms that he hired. Then we have Jerry Nissenbaum, who was another attorney that was representing him at the same time from Massachusetts. Then we have Brad Martin, which is his South Carolina lawyer that represented him. And then we have Dr. Carol Jenny, who was so-called called in to be the child porn expert instead of going to the state police cyber task force to be the expert on child porn. They went to a Dr. Carol Jenny from Hasbro Hospital. And then we've got Brad, now it's gonna work. We've got Mr. Boren, who was an attorney that represented me for one day, sold me out, took $10,000 of my mother money, and then said he wanted more money on a Monday, and he didn't even represent me. So I was left without another lawyer. And then we have Dominic Kufner himself, the Kufner family, who literally did this to me and my children. His father, Joseph Kufner. My sister-in-law, Tanya Kufner, who also, we have, trying to find this, somehow my mouse stopped working. Isn't that funny? We have Jerry Nissenbaum, I mentioned, Barry Pollock. We have the Department of Justice. Of course, everybody here, we've got the Attorney General of Rhode Island. We got the state police, who basically had their hands tied. These are the main characters. And then, of course, there were several lawyers in Germany, but I can get you the rest later, but these are the main ones. I mean, these are the prime ones that really literally made it happen and gave over my children and put a gag order on me.
I need to see faces.
But I have faces. I sent them all to V. Actually, I have the faces and the profiles and the addresses. So I will send an email.
I'd like to mention, I'll mention the case of Jonah people as well. The thing that may not have that in front of her at the moment, since we've mentioned that. So in Jonah Earl Reeves' case, that stemmed actually from a child who was kidnapped first out of Alabama, his home residence state, in December of 2010. under fraudulent circumstances and no valid orders. The state of California is the one who perpetrated the crime and blackmailed Judge Whitmire out of Fort Payne, Alabama, who was first actually protecting my son and I in Alabama after we moved to Alabama from California in March of 2008. My son was 3 months old. So what it was the Title 4D case. Title 4 actually gave authority over to Alabama, which gave Alabama the jurisdiction. That meant they were the only ones to make any orders to the case, which actually is even a bigger fraud. It even makes the whole case in California. Anything they did to my son and I means that it was all null and void. That means it was void ab initio. It means you could wipe your butt like with toilet paper with anything that they created on paper. That's my most crass way of saying it, to make it so heinous to our listeners understand the absolute corrupt, absolute value of what they did. Didn't mean anything. There was no authority behind anything that they created and did. It was all void and fraud. So with that said, we have an Alabama judge, Stephen Whitmire, who took a bribe in 2010, December. Actually, it started in October, even before that. Actually, I'm sorry. They were working with him back in mid 2010. So we found out he was flown down to Central America, and then they blackmailed him from there. Is what happened. Then he started doing the fraudulent work with an attorney for Sullivan, Brian Sullivan, who was a handler. Her name was Dana Marie Grimes, who's also a victim of the system, adopted in to her family. She's part of the Brotherhood. She's out of Fort Payne. She also is out of Birmingham. But that was his attorney he used in Fort Payne, Alabama, working with the attorneys who actually schooled her, directed her, which was Daniel Burke, very well known for child kidnapping and legal kidnapping through the system. He's the most powerful attorney in San Diego to do legal kidnapping. Daniel Burke and his associate, who's now a partner, his name is Pierre Domery. From there, I had an attorney named Stephen Bussman, who was a magistrate in my town of Henniger, Alabama, where I moved. He also ended up taking a bribe because he was close friends with Judge Stephen Whitmire, who was in charge at that time, was Judge Irabaiti, who was her boss, who was the one who oversaw this, Judge Kenneth K. So, a Japanese judge, and he was also an appellate judge in California and San Diego, the 4th Appellate Division. So he oversaw this with another over Eugenia Irabaiti in 2009. Then we took it over from there because she was pulled out for fraud and also misconduct. Was also Judge Gregory Pollack, who was connected to Tina's case with Barry Pollack as an international attorney. Judge Gregory Pollack, his boss was Elisa Alinsky. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Alinsky, who was the presiding judge in 2010 when Pollack took over. Pollack is the international kidnapping judge. You can actually look him up. Anybody in your audience can look him up. He is notorious for doing all kinds of crimes in the system. He's one of the worst listed judges in California under Crystal Harris's case. So, this is a guy that's made the news for being notorious for fraud, for kidnapping through the system. He's absolutely famous for the types of misconduct he uses and abuses his authority to do through the system. He helped kidnap Jonah through the system with the second attorney, Brian Sullivan, another alias for Brian Nolan, and also a transgender man named Denise Glazer, a.k.a. Denise Wallach, a.k.a. who's admitted that she trafficked my son Jonah in January 2018, put it in writing. I want you all to know. We have it. So they all work together with a CPS woman by the name of Lupita Castro Zuniga, who hid herself in the system in this case by twisting her name, Lupita Zuniga Castro. So these people were all involved with Bonnie Dumanis. They all had her sweet authority and kiss of, you know, she backed it, she was part of it, she allowed it. She's been allowing these cases to go on in her jurisdiction for many years and been part of this situation. She's the head of the LGBT. So, with a woman named Carol Schneider and her sergeant, Timothy Sullivan. He was part of Carlsbad. He was a sergeant in Carlsbad. These people are one big happy family. Brian Sullivan had people, Greg Sullivan pretended to be the sheriff of San Diego, put on my paperwork to pretend to arrest me when he wasn't the sheriff. William D. Gore in 2012 was the sheriff, not Gregory Sullivan. Gregory Sullivan was the booking clerk at the Las Colinas jail. He put himself down as the sheriff to try to grab me and my child in North Carolina, where I last saw my son November 5th of 2012. So you have all these people that work together with Elizabeth Trosh in North Carolina, who's a new judge who worked with and was a longtime friend of Assistant DA, Jill Lindbergh. Jill Lindbergh was somebody who was a nobody under Bonnie DeMattis, and she got promoted for doing fraud in this case with Carol Schneider, an investigator under Sergeant Timothy Sullivan of Carlsbad. So you have all these people under Kamala Harris taking orders, all the way to, again, Beth Chapman out of Alabama, the Secretary of State, unbeknownst to Governor Bentley. She got fired, actually she had to resign in 2013 for helping them in this fraud. All the way to Judge Trosh, Elizabeth Trosh, and her brother-in-law, Louis Trosh Jr., who, I got to tell you, did this all by themselves. They used two DAs, Kevin Payne and Kevin Mitten, who were actors. The DA's office of Charlotte said, there was a Kevin Mitten, but he doesn't work here anymore, and the other guys never worked here, so they were actors. Josh York, who did the kidnapping of me on April 3rd, 2013, he was doing a favor for the people in California. They actually got rid of his picture. He said, just doing a favor. He was an investigator. He impersonated a federal marshal by the name of Chuck Robert Reynolds. Chuck Robert Reynolds wasn't involved. And he impersonated him when he kidnapped me on April 3rd, 2013. No one checked to find out that the guy they were looking at Salon 75 in Henniger, Alabama, Chuck Robert Reynolds wasn't 6'2", like Josh York, white hair with a goatee, with little tiny glasses, in his 60s. Chuck Robert Reynolds was in his 40s. The guy was pretty robust. He was 5'7", and he was bald. So my point is that these people, again, this shows the misconduct they will go to in 3 different states. They go all the way to Australia, the Attorney General there. You have Chandler Sellers, the State Department, who's CIA. You also have a guy named Adam Clark who helped them with Interpol. And now we believe that there was, what was the name? His name was Eckhard Pfeiffer in Interpol.
Oh God, and Eckhard Pfeiffer was a friend of mine since Anon. Remember, we put that together since 2011. Right. Eckhard befriended me, and he's from Munich. Said he was going to be on my side, try to help me expose this. I'm Dominic Kufner, send people, try to get into his computer, be like the hacking Anon. Eckhard somehow is the pedophile sympathizer.
Right. So
and he's been watching me since 2011 on Facebook.
But Tina mentioned how Brian Sullivan really was somebody who was a CIA agent, actually, that he was an operative. It's why he would work with the courts, that Bill chose for the courts, with Denise. Her real name, his name is a transgender man. Her real name is Denise Nolan, working with Boeing from Minnesota, and also California. This is somebody who was really in charge, working with the daycare, Carlsbad Country Daycare, working with Shanae. He was the intern at the DA's office pretending to be a daycare worker. Miss Shanae was her name at the Carlsbad Country Daycare, working under Director Melissa Reed. So they were all involved in this whole trafficking ring in California, working under Sullivan, who was CIA, USAF, and also Naval. He worked Naval. He actually worked out of, I guess it's out of Christchurch. There's a base there that goes all the way up to McMurdo up in Antarctica. And so they did flight missions there. So he was somebody who was a flight engineer in the 80s all the way up. So you have this ring of military people that are trafficking children through the courts and using them for what? Their spiritual gifts, or whatever they think, if they're from generational bloodlines, because they're hoping that there's a genetic memory that passes down, and those high-level children that come from those bloodlines so they can use them is what it is for different projects like Project Orion, Project Genesis, Project Carousel. Those are different projects, and Spay Wars with SAIC, which Denise Nolan, aka Denise Wallach, had people she was connected to with Boeing and aerospace, and so is Sullivan. This is why these people were chosen, is all I'm saying, connected to other people who made it appear that they were family members. So they chose children for their genetic ability, their genetic makeup, lineage, to use them for their psychic gifts in these type of Star Wars, Star programs, is all I'm saying. That's what I found out.
Okay, well, Tammy, great information. I want all of my anonymous constituents to look these people up. I want them doxxed. I want to know who they're connected with, what orphanages, what Cash for Kids program, whatever they're connected to. I want to know all the dirt on these people, and I'll give you your shot at coming on the show. It's time for Anonymous to step up.
Can I tell one more name? I've got more, but Alex Weintraub, you can look at his picture. He looks like a pedophile from New York City. I mean, he was the child porn expert to determine whether the images are child porn. It says right here, obsessive compulsive disorder, adolescent psychiatry, psychotherapy, forensic psychology, and eating disorder. It doesn't say anything about being an expert in child porn. He's one on the list.
The prophecy is that in the 2012, 2013, 2014, so who was in power at that time? You got to look at that. Or when these children were taken, especially the ones like Jonah or others that were taken out of the country like Gina's. And you have the Obama administration, you have the Clinton administration, like Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State. Guess what? Mueller in 2012 and 2013 was the head of the FBI. You have James Comey, you have James Allen Jones. You also have James N. Hendrick, Rod Rosenstein, Douglas E. Lindquist. So these are the people in California. You have Daphne Hearn. Well, guess what? The organization I was a client of, WFM, they were working with Bill Hearn. Guess what? Daphne Hearn is the nephew of Bill Hearn. She was the head of the FBI in Los Angeles and San Diego. She had the FBI people that I had working on my case in 2015 and 2016 moved. Okay.
Well, that just goes to show you how all incestuous it is. Okay, our presidents are all of descendants of some Duke or King, and the heads of the federal government agencies. These people aren't elected. These people aren't hired through merit. These people all have a so-called birthright, and these are the same people who are telling you about democracy and committing genocide in the Middle East. We're not all stupid, I hope. Stephen, did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, thank you. All right, first of all, ladies, thank you again. We are going to end it here. We've been going for 2 hours, so if you don't mind, I know if we give you a final word, you're going to keep going for another hour. But you're right, though. If we learned anything today, and I think that this is what we really covered a lot on the last show that I just kind of want to reiterate, that we missed, and that is that every single person that's involved in these agencies on a local level all the way up to the highest levels are going to be corrupt, and they are put in those positions because they're corrupt. It's just like you wonder why there's so many pedophiles in Hollywood. It's because they're the only ones that get hired. Okay, so yes, it's a pedophile system, and ultimately, if we want to save our world, we're going to have to. That's what we have to do. We have to end the pedophilia, and I just want to say thank you. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for for that. I want to say really quickly, the only way, Tina, that someone's going to be a child porn expert is if they work for the NSA or they're pedophile themselves. So, with that said, I want to again thank you, Stephen, for co-hosting the show with me, and Tina and Tammy. We're going to continue to follow your story and kick a little butt if we can. Because, you know, been out of chewing gum for a little while. So, this has been another episode of the Red Pill Hardcore TV show. And please, catch me next week.